Heavenly Father, Lord God, as we come before you tonight, Lord, we're still a free people. And Father God, let us think upon all of the mercies that you have shown us in so many different ways as we come before you again tonight. We ask, Father God, as you have given us such a great wisdom and a wealth of knowledge in your word, the Bible. You gave us founding fathers, the men of God who gave us one nation under you. So as we gather here tonight, let us always remember to give you your rightful and proper place. And let us petition you tonight. We ask, Father God, that your presence be felt here and your wisdom and your guidance, Lord, lead us that we might be a people, Father God, that call upon you, that we might be a people that say, here I am, Lord, choose me and let me stand in the gap for you. These things we ask in the name of our Lord and Savior, Christ Jesus. Amen. Amen. Thank you. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Tonight, what we want to do is to remind you, if you have not joined our Tea Party, we need all of you. We need all of you to join. It's $20 a year is all it is, and that's just basically operating money so that we can continue doing what we're doing here. So back at the desk where those pretty women are sitting, you can sign up, and if you could join, we would appreciate it. And then you would be a voting member. You could be a voting member here at the Tea Party. Now, if you don't join, if you wanted to sign up anyhow and give your email so that we could keep you informed, that will help all of you. You'll be informed. We're a very activist group here. So, and with that, we're going to introduce tonight our guest, Mr. Wyzek. Would you come? And he is the Geauga County Health Department. And I'll just introduce you.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? No. You can't. It's just what am I doing wrong?
Closer to your mouth.
Is that better? Can you all hear me now? Okay. I don't want to seem like I'm screaming, but I'm really glad to see this turnout. Okay, my name is Bob Wyzek. I've been called many other names, but that's the one I go by technically. Okay? So, what I'm going to ask you to do tonight is pretty straightforward. I'm going to give you some answers that were asked of me to be able to present to you. Now, I'm going to be very precise so you fully understand what I'm saying. If I am not clear, you please ask me. I will not embarrass you if you do not try to embarrass me. Amen. Praise the Lord. All right. We're together. So what we're going to do here tonight is go through some of the questions or all of the questions that were asked of me so you clearly understand where we're coming from. But I wanted to tell you one thing right now. You all in this county have a board of health that I have never seen that has been so good in my entire life. Now, I think I have two board members here tonight. Would Miss Christina Liver stand up? There she is right there. Okay? I'd like to see Dr. Rubel stand up. Where's he at? He's another board member. So, it takes a community of people that are interested and concerned. Now, I have, 20 minutes about that?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay, so what I want to do, I want to get into, I put a very brief slide presentation for you. Here are your new sewage rules. They're about 126 plus pages long. Okay? We have been working on a 27-page document that was rather, I'd say technical to a certain degree, but I see many sewage installers throughout this group, and it was rather well received. And if they are allowed to talk, I guess they'll be able to make their comments if you would. But to try not to belabor this, there's 126 pages that are so confusing that if you do not have the background and the experience that we have, you are going to be totally lost. I pray for you every night. And no, I am dead serious about this.
Amen.
Because the good Lord blessed me, and I'm trying to bless you all. And you need to understand that Board of Health has to make some very difficult decisions. And it's always been with you in mind. It isn't that we're here to hurt you. Geauga County must have good working sewage systems, and that will help protect your water table. That's what we want. So with that, I want to hit some of these questions. Can we move this back a little bit so everyone can see? Excuse me. Now, the first question that we have, do the new rules require that everyone install or buy a new sewage system now? The answer is no. Everybody with me? The answer is no. If anybody tries to tell you you have an inadequate system, you tell them to call me. Okay? Next question. Or when they sell. We do have a for sale of property program in this county. Why? I instituted that in 2002. My background is I am an environmental and infectious epidemiologist by degree. I can only protect you if I have the data to do so. And we're going to see a little bit of that data as we go through here because I think it's going to surprise a lot of individuals. The answer is, or when we sell, no, unless the system is deemed a public health nuisance. And I will tell you right now, I was instrumental along with Senator Grandel at that time. And we have been blessed by having him and his wife work on certain items on the sewage rules. I've been here for 28 and a half years. And I could not do this on my own, folks. Not even in the flesh. I had help. And this is where this runs into. Do the current systems fail so often that new technology is necessary? My answer is no. Gee, I'm just Bob. Since 2002, our for sale of property program has shown that current on lot, key question or key statement, on lot leaching trench systems are passing by 97%, folks. This isn't by happenstance. This is because we have worked our way into understanding what's going on. 97%. How many think that that's a bad percentage to pass? Lift your hand. Okay? When I first came here in 1986, we were averaging 40 to 50% failure rate. We just needed to understand what we're looking at. You need to see the forest for the trees. You need to know what you need to look at. in order to get to this. This has been since 2007. You tell me that we have a problem in Geauga County with our unlit leaching trench systems. Am I correct? Raise your hand if you think I'm right. I thank you. It is because of you all that is at 97%. We need to make sure we maintain these things. They need to be pumped, folks. We can't have the organic matter going out into the leaching trench field. We need to make sure that we get it and pump it out. Therefore, with a 97% passing rate, I think it's pretty good. But you know what? We have a 51-page report that shows the 97% passing rate. It isn't just because Bob said so. The data is there. We have everything broken down. We're here to help you. This 51-page report was ignored by the Ohio Department of Health. I handed it to the director, and it was just overlooked. What is the reliability of the new systems? Now, I'm not going to stand here and lie to you. I already told you I'm a scientist. Difficult to answer because of lack of scientific information. We have some installers in this room that will tell you there are some of these drip systems that are frozen. Okay, you know what I call those? Frozen poopsicles. I feel bad for the people that haven't because they can't flush their commode. What can I do? I can't win. Therefore, until we collect more data on them, I am very hesitant to tell you what's going to happen. I could give you an estimate, but I don't know. What's the cost of them? How much do they cost to install and maintain? Estimated costs are based by fees that now on our form, they have to be filled out by the installer. The drip system is averaging $21,500. That's an average. The mound system pricing's generally, and I use approximations, generally $25,000 and up. Maintenance, you're probably talking in the ballpark of $80 a month. On-lot leaching trench systems, if allowed, the installation cost for, based on the number of bedrooms, is about $14,000. So these are some estimates, and there's a lot of variables and factors associated with each and every case. NPDES, which is National Pollution Discharge Eliminating Systems, which falls under OEPA. That I don't even want to get into because they may vary from county to county, different criteria and whatnot. These are the individuals that supported the sewage rules. I'm not going to read them, but I think you should. This is the group that I feel that looked at this and have supported those rules. I'm not here trying to be, a rebel rouser. I'm here to provide you the facts. What impact will revised rules have on a homeowner? The Ohio Department of Health documentation, we're going to touch on this real quick. It says nothing. The law says nearly all sewage systems are deemed approved until they fail and create a public health nuisance. No automatic upgrades required. The process for repairing or replacing an existing system or installing a new system, a new home, remains exactly the same as today. That is not true at all. I'm sorry to inform you, But many people were told this. Many people on that agency's list of agencies believe this. No way, shape, or form. 80% of our leaching trench systems that we have been installing in Geauga County are going to disappear. The criteria is becoming so stringent right now that it is mind-boggling. When a system does eventually require replacement, system options, and that's a key word, folks, options. Because you're going to make the determination after I'm done whether you have an option or not. It's not Bob's determination. I'm going to lay it out for you. You make that determination. It says system options and costs will be very similar to options and costs today for most systems. Do you agree with that? What I just showed you with the cost of the systems? What's wrong with the current state rules? Minimum rules. Current rules, 1977, they are over 35 years old. Ohio has the oldest sewage rules in the United States. What do you care? With the data we got, we are not hiding anything. But let me tell you what. Let's fill out the rest of the story. There are some states that have no state sewage rules at all, period. But gee, because we're 35 years behind or whatever, Geauga County and many other counties have been making strides and making adjustments that haven't hit the homeowner's pocketbook. Because we know you've worked hard or you are working hard. Use of modern standards. Allow the use of many new technologies that provide more options to the homeowners and sets a process to easily implement innovations. I think I've already discussed that. Cost concerns, homeowners. I was told, and my staff were told, by Dr. Jackson at the time, the director of the Ohio Department of Health. He came to our department and he said the state average cost of replacing a sewage system is going to be $8,200 and has not varied much since 2007. That's the documentation from the Ohio Department of Health. I just showed you actual data and cost of $21,500. What's going on here? Okay? I'm not smoking mirrors. I'm going to lay it on the line, folks. You have to deal with it. Because the estimates we got from sewage installers on the application form to get a permit is that the drip system averages $21,500. That's a little bit different. Homeowners will be able to pick from different designs and technologies to find a system that fits their budget, lot conditions, and water usage. It appears to myself and the staff, to us, that the new rules limit and restrict homeowners from choices and options. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know, perhaps maybe I'm wrong. Other issues, system maintenance, just like any part of this, and from ODH again, just like any part of a home, sewage systems require maintenance, and this is recognized in state law. State law says a homeowner is responsible for maintaining their sewage system. State law also says that local health districts are responsible for developing a program to ensure maintenance. Okay? Wait a minute, let me go back here a moment. Operational permit, wait a minute, where did I get to? Okay, operational permits and maintenance contracts are perhaps the most important issues that homeowners need to be aware of. Listen to what I just told you. Operational permits and maintenance contracts are perhaps the most important issues that homeowners will need to be aware of. Section 3701-29-19. If you have not read the state rules, this is perhaps one of the biggest things you're missing. And get ready, because it isn't going to miss you. It says under A1, boards of health shall work with interested stakeholders to develop a timeline and process for phasing in operation and maintenance management for, what's that word, Barry?
Prior
installed systems, and should consider risk factors such as system age, complexity, and risk to public health when establishing the criteria. What does that mean? That's the law, folks. That's the basic law. There's no getting around it. I'm stuck with it. Do I like it? I was the only health commissioner in the state of Ohio that went down even to JCAR. I went to the Senate, to the committees, and says, I don't think we need these. Please, we don't need them. They're here. And as my wife always tells me, deal with it.
Bob, we're going to have to...
I'm done.
All right, and because we have a panel discussion coming up. I'd like to introduce... I think that fellow knows what he's talking about. Wouldn't you agree? All right. Next, I want to introduce our state senator, John Eklund. And John is going to come up here and speak for about 10 minutes. And then we have Barry Meadows, an installer, and Matt Lynch.
Thank you very much, Pastor. I really appreciate it.
Got to hold it a little closer.
All right, I'll hold it a little closer.
And use that preacher's voice.
Thank you, Pastor. And thank you all very much for being here. This has been an issue that has been in the forefront for us here in Geauga County for some time, as Mr. Weisdack indicated, going back to the early 2000s when legislation was passed to require a rewriting of the septic rules. And they went about and they tried to rewrite them. They came out. Nobody liked them. And the legislature, this is all before I got there, rescinded the authority to write the rules and wrote a new bill, required them to go back and take another shot. And that was about the time that I came into office in November 2011. And I think it was probably within 3 weeks I was in Mr. Weisdack's office. Remember that, Bob?
Yes, sir.
And going to school on septic systems. And when it came time to make comments on the draft rules as they came out, I was the only Ohio senator who submitted comments objecting to the rules and pointing out, with the help of Mr. Weisdack, some of the issues that we had, some of which, frankly, are very technical and some of which are a little beyond my scientific expertise, but nevertheless, I felt confident that they needed to be addressed. Some of them were, some of them weren't. But there were many thousands of other comments that were submitted and reacted to by this committee that came up with these rules. What I would observe to you is this. The takeaway for me from a legislative standpoint is, number one, we do this a lot. We pass a law that says we want something to happen, and then we tell a state agency to go off and write the rules to implement the law. And unfortunately, that rule writing process does not have the same degree of legislative oversight that I'd like to see it have. And consequently, we're presented with sort of a fait accompli, if you will. Here they are, and, they're presented to a committee of legislators who don't know any more about septic systems than you or I do, quite frankly. And they look at them and they listen to the departments who submit the rules and they say, okay, put them into effect. And that's what's happened here. So, and I was talking to somebody today from the Department of Insurance, different topic, who said to me, you're trying to put more sort of bumpers around this rulemaking process, and the more you do that, the more we're starting to think that maybe what we ought to just do, instead of going through this rule writing process, just go to the legislature and have the legislature do a bill that sets forth the rules instead of having some agency do it. And that might not be a bad idea. Maybe we should be doing more of that in the legislature than we did back in 2007 and 2010, or whenever the first set of rules came out. That's number one observation. Number two observation, I think I agree in some respects with what Mr. Weisdak said about we really don't know what the full impact of these new rules is going to be, because some of the technology is new and not been used in Ohio before. And, there's a measure of discretion that's been given to our local health departments, thank God, to develop things like these operation and maintenance rules and procedures, as well as the process for seeking variances is also vested in the local health officials. So it's very, very difficult to see how this is going to work out with any degree of real certainty. Third point I would suggest to you is that the cost of these systems, and I have absolutely no reason to doubt the figures that Mr. Weisdak offered to you, but how much did it cost you to own a laptop computer 10 years ago? A lot of money, right? You can go out now and get one that's pretty decent for a heck of a lot less. And the story is the same with color TVs, flat screen TVs, computers, and everything. Over the course of time, when it becomes a profitable thing to do and the demand for it increases, the price ultimately comes down. And I would like to think, if the laws of economics apply in the world of septic systems as well as they apply every place else, and I think they do, that we're going to have to see what happens in that marketplace in terms of the cost of those systems is concerned. The other thing that unfortunately goes on in the legislative world and in the rulemaking world is we're trying to write rules, and they're trying to write rules designed to apply across the state. And when it comes to things like septic systems, unfortunately, I would say, I'd almost go so far as to say one size fits none. And while the rules do try to account for the different soil types and the soil properties in different parts of the state, it's very, very difficult to write a rule that says, well, if you've got clay in your soil, you should deal with it this way. If you have sand in your soil, you should deal with it some other way. Because it's all different from place to place. And the soil here in Geauga County is different from the soil up in Lake County. It's different from the soil in Portage County. So we don't know the extent to which the rule makers have come up with a system that is sufficiently flexible to accommodate the very real differences in soil types that exist not just across the state, but within regions of the state. And it is, in a certain respect, a bit of an experiment in that regard. So, will it be a disaster for us? I don't know. But I do know what happened in July over in Chardon. Do you remember? Do you know? As many as 80 homes in an older Chardon Township neighborhood may be affected by bacteria sampling done in April showing high levels of E. coli in the ditches. Now, I'm not trying to strike a sense of panic in anybody, okay? But I'm here to tell you that bacteria in ditches in Geauga County is not good, and the EPA and Mr. Weisdack's department, I'm sure, I don't know what the current state of play is on that, but I know they're working very hard and diligently and take this all very seriously. But one possible reason for E. coli finding itself on the surface of standing water in Geauga County could be a failing septic system, all right, or failing septic systems generally, which I think Bob was exactly right, oftentimes come from the fact that they're not maintained properly, and they do have to be maintained. So it is not an issue that we can simply brush aside as here we are being put upon again. These are very real and serious issues here in Geauga County, and I think we need to give these rules an opportunity to work and see how they go. If they turn out to be an utter disaster, and all of you wind up having to go out and replace your septic systems, which Mr. Weisdack was correct, you're not required to do, then we deal with it. We would deal with it. Final point I'll make, just as a general proposition, is that if your septic system fails under the old law and under the old rules, you're required by law to replace it. Required by law to replace it if it fails. That is to say, if it creates a public health nuisance. Okay? So that much is not changing. That much is not changing. So while it is all very new, it is much more complicated, I think, in a certain respect, in an effort to try to, apply different rules to different parts of the state. I think that that's probably a good effort. Whether it's a fruitful effort or not, we're going to have to see. But at the end of the day, I'm hopeful that we can all get behind the thrust of the rules, which is let's make maintenance of our systems of critical importance. Because if it fails through a lack of maintenance, whether it's under the old rules or the new rules, it's going to cost us all a lot of money. So let's be conscious of this, and let's work with the new rules. And I know Bob and his staff are going to work with the new rules and see if there isn't some way that we can make this work for the better health of the entire county. I appreciate your patience, and the fact that you're here, honestly, gives me a feeling of warmth, actually, in the dead of winter. And I don't like the cold. I hate to tell you, and I've been cold the last few weeks. But I feel warm tonight because you're concerned and you want to do the right thing, and you certainly have the interests of not only yourselves but the greater community at heart. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
State Senator John Eklund, folks. All right, next we have an installer, Barry Meadows, right here. And he's going to speak for about 10 minutes. And then Matt Lynch, State Representative Matt Lynch. And then you can ask all the questions. We're going to have a question and answer panel. So Barry Meadows, he puts out the Septic News. Pretty good newsletter.
Well, thank you. It's actually my wife that does that, so I can't take the credit. It's Trumbull County Septic News. I do the majority of my work in Trumbull County, and I have to say that you folks are very fortunate to have a health commissioner like Mr. Weisdack. He was on the front page of the local newspaper in opposition of these new rules. And he also, like he said, he was at JCAR in opposition of these rules. So you're very fortunate to have a regulator at the helm. In Trumbull County, it's slightly different. We don't have a regulator of his caliber. All right. One thing that really stood out when Mr. Weisdack mentioned that number, $8,200. I was watching a video a few days with the ODH regulators, and they used that number. And I wrote it down in my notes, and I thought, my God, where do they get this $8,200 and if the standard system is still going to be a leach field? Folks, I can't even buy the parts for $8,200, let alone go out there and pay for the permits and install it on your property and make a comfortable profit. I can't even buy the parts for $8,200. So this number is just mind-blowing. I don't know where they got it. Some history on the rules. Back in 2007, they came out with some pretty heavy-hitting rules that are really what we have right here. But they were a little bit too fast, and they were rescinded, and then these new rules were worked up. And the reason I think they were kind of slipped in, there was some verbiage that is being used, and I want to actually just read the rule itself and let you guys make your mind up. And the way that I work a lot with homeowners, and then I'm kind of go-between with the homeowners and the regulators, so I kind of I can speak more your language because I know what you're thinking, and I know the concerns and about the operation and the appearance. But the way these rules, I think, got slipped by the homeowners was there was a notion that if your system's working, you don't have to replace it. Has anybody heard that? Show of hands. Let me see. Yes. Okay. Folks, who's going to determine if your system is working? All right. Yes. Mr. Wisedeck. Now, he's talking about the leach systems. They've done a good job in Geauga County of adequately requiring systems and then the oversight on the installation. But let me read the rule. A sewage treatment system that was in operation prior to the effective date of these rules shall not be required to be replaced with a new sewage treatment system and shall be deemed approved. Folks, there's no period there. I just stopped. That's where the politicians are stopping. Let me continue reading. If the system does not create a public health nuisance, who's going to determine that? Your local health department. Now, Bob, as I said, you are very fortunate to have a regulator like him at the helm, all right, because he's fair. And when he prescribes something like those leach fields that have I think he said a 97% success rate, that's because his experience has been a benefit to the community. Hello? Turn it off. Hello? Oh, there it is. I might have hit the button on the bottom. Okay, so it's not, if your system is not, is working, you're okay. There's more to it. So keep that in mind. And these rules, one thing that I don't like is the untested aspect of them. Okay? There are treatments that may have worked down in Columbus or a few areas out there on a handful of places, but it's different up here in this part of the state. All right, the soils here are different than the soils in Trumbull County. They're much different than the soils south of us in Columbus, and the technology that may work down there doesn't necessarily work up here. And I don't like that. You know, as an installer, I got to form a relationship with a homeowner and say, okay, this system is going to cost in excess of $25,000. And then I just tell folks, you know, what level of confidence do I have that this system is going to work long term for you? And, you know, it's sometimes I can't give that level. It's like, hey, this thing's new. We've never done some of this stuff. And I don't feel comfortable charging $25,000 on an experiment in your yard. So there's a lot to work through on these rules, and you know the details is where it's really going to come in when you have your regulators saying, hey, is this something we really should be doing in this county? And when you have a one-size-fits-all, it doesn't fit any. So that's about all I have to say. Maybe, you know, at the round table, if you have specific questions, I'd be glad to address them. And I'll turn it over.
All right. Very good. The next speaker is going to be Representative Matt Lynch, but before he speaks, we're going to have someone a whole lot prettier than him. Just wants to make a comment here. She is Dr. Marisha Ghana. She sits on the board of Trumbull County Health Department, and she's here to tell you how lucky we are to have our health department, and that fellow standing right there. Come on up, Bob.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming and supporting your health board and most especially your health commissioner. I'm very amazed because I currently sit as one of the 5-member Trumbull County Board of Health, and I'm having a rough time with my Board of Health. And unfortunately, our health commissioner is part of the network of good old men who, yes, I'm the only woman, yes, who want to not change things, and if they do want to change things, it's for their own benefit, not the benefit of our Trumbull County folks. And I'm trying very hard, and please, if you know people from my county, please tell them to not be apathetic. That is the reason our country is in the trouble we are in, because of apathy. So please tell them to please participate, because you guys have to own your freedoms. That's the best I can tell you, and thank you very much.
Now, we have this fella here.
Thank you. Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Just to be clear, I'm no longer your state representative. I'm former state representative Matt Lynch. John is your state senator, and I understand our new state representative couldn't be here tonight for one reason or another, but I'm really here to talk very briefly sort of about the state of the political fight to stop the implementation of these rules, specifically in Geauga County, actually anywhere in the state of Ohio. And you've already heard a lot of the history and the technical stuff. So when I came into office, I was well aware of the problems we were facing with the upcoming rules to deal with septic systems, and I talked to Tim Grindell, now Judge Grindell, about it. And we were waiting, really, for these new rules to come out. And I think we were not surprised that they were still unacceptable. And I met with Bob Weisdack and whoever. Here he is, Bob. And he's like having a mad scientist in your corner, because he knows all this stuff up and down. And I decided that although the rulemaking process was going forward, what we needed to do was go on offense. So I drafted it, and we filed a bill, House Bill 525, the spring of last year, which I actually have a copy of in my pocket. It's you know how they write those 4,000-page laws? This is one page. And House Bill 525 said, if your local county commissioners decide that the new rules implemented by the health department are not applicable to your county, and I see Skip Claypool raising his hand over here, then they can simply negate those new rules and revert to the old rules that are already in place. And in Geauga County, since 97% of our systems are passing, as Bob says, that certainly would have been the result. That bill was just introduced in April of last year, and as you may know, we work in a 2-year cycle in the legislature, so very quickly we were in summer session, so there really wasn't time for that bill even to get through the process, so it was not passed in the last General Assembly. I'm hopeful that a member of the legislature will refile that bill very soon to try to implement an opportunity for local counties to protect themselves from this kind of, in my view, overreach by the bureaucracy. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the Ohio Department of Health bureaucracy putting up these rules. Because while here sits Senator Eklund, or previously Representative Lynch, that you might see in the grocery store, or you might see at a meeting like this, and John said he likes the warmth from the room. Some people might call it heat, white hot heat. But that's the kind of heat that we politicians respond to. So you can put that kind of heat. But does anyone in this room know the name of the folks that wrote these rules? No, because they're faceless bureaucrats. They're faceless bureaucrats that you can't get on the phone and say, why are you doing this to me in Geauga County? I'm going to vote you out of office. Because politicians come and go, but those bureaucrats stay. And there's a tremendous weight in the bureaucracy to get these things done. I had a conversation with someone today complaining to me about the road that was being done on their little street in Bainbridge Township. And they complained to the county engineer, and the county engineer said, well, we're required to do this. Well, what are we required to do this by? Well, the Ohio Department of Transportation. Well, who's there in charge? We have to recognize something, folks. And I know a lot of you folks have probably never been to a Tea Party meeting before tonight. And I'm almost, except I don't want to embarrass you to raise your hand, but I think a lot of folks probably have never been to a Tea Party meeting. The Tea Party is about liberty. And when we as a society allow our state legislatures, or our federal legislatures for that matter, to pass the authority to make laws to these faceless bureaucracies, when Bob Weisdeck puts up that rule and says, this is the law, wait a minute. That wasn't passed through the legislature. That never went through the committee process. That was put together instead by bureaucrats in a department that you'll never know and you'll never be able to vote out of office. And so we're faced as legislators with the condition that, well, we hope, as John says, it's not a disaster. But to me, that's an unsatisfactory response, frankly, because we should not have to sit back and hope that our government has not imposed upon us a curly light bulb or a low volume toilet or a septic system or whatever it might be, if we as a people have not authorized our elected representatives to do these things. And so that's why the Tea Party cares about septic systems, when actually you might say, well, why do they? Because it's a liberty issue. And it's much broader than just septic systems, although it hits you very hard when it hits your pocketbook and hits how you flush your toilets. That's a pretty personal thing. So this fight has to continue on a lot of different levels. Bob Weisdeck, wonderful as he is, isn't always going to be our health commissioner. And we have to make sure that when time comes to have new health commissioners, we have good county commissioners like Skip Claypool who recognize these liberty issues and defend them when it comes to putting folks like Bob in office. So I'm happy to answer any questions we can. There is an opportunity to protect Geauga County and all the counties from these rules if we can create enough white-hot heat in order to force the legislature to simply override the bureaucracy. I am not prepared to say you should sit back and see if it's a disaster. I think you pressure your elected officials to move forward to try to protect you now. And so when we sit, we'll answer questions. But thanks very much.
Boy, Matt couldn't be more right about making them feel the heat, folks. It's now or never. And we are at a crossroads in America. So with that, we're going to have a panel discussion here. And we're going to start, John, if you would get that mic there. And I will wander around about and take questions. So the questions will start right now. Let's start with this fella here that got to jump on everybody here a little while ago.
My question perhaps is for both Senator Eklund and Representative Lynch.
You got to speak right into that. Kind of loud.
Considering the fact that this new septic rule is vague and unclear in many instances, why in the world can't this be taken to the Ohio Supreme Court and let the court decide what the status of this thing shall be?
That they're suffering as a result of the rules. There's, I suppose, in theory, no reason why that couldn't happen if somebody can demonstrate a compensable injury, a justiciable injury that stems from the vagueness of the rule. I suppose there's, in theory, the possibility that could happen. It's the short answer. And I have to tell you that Representative LaTourette, Sarah LaTourette, was intending to be here, but the Speaker of the House of Representatives down there called all the Republicans into a conference, which is lasting all day today and all day tomorrow, so she had to be in Columbus meeting with the Speaker of the House of Representatives down there. But I think, there's always that kind of a procedural possibility, I suppose.
I wasn't sure who was the questioner. Oh, here you okay. I just want to make sure I made eye contact with you. Look, you can. I'm a lawyer. John's a lawyer. We're all about lawsuits. Okay, But let's just talk about the thousands of dollars and the years of effort that would take in a lawsuit. I just think it's an impractical solution, although, as John suggests, there might be some validity to it. No, I think the solution is legislation that simply overrides, if you will, the authority to implement these rules without the approval of the local county commissioners. It's not rocket science to do that. You just have to have the political will to do that. And the way you garner that political will is by everybody in this room and all of your neighbors and family members, turning up the heat on the legislature to do this. So I think it's a much more direct approach to solving the problem.
I want to remind you fellas that Jesus said, "Woe unto you lawyers! Woe unto you lawyers!" What other questions do we have right back here?
Matt, what was the number of that bill? Was it 525?
Yeah, House Bill 525. You can look it up for yourself on the Ohio House of Representatives website. You have to go to last year's list of bills, so it's the 130th General Assembly. And I've got a few copies here if somebody wants one, but it's very straightforward.
Three questions. Matt, why can't we print out all the nasty names of those legislators that nobody knows about? Then we could take an impact by writing them and waking them up. Number one. John, my little farm I have, my gravel cost $250 for a triaxle 5 years ago. Now it's $800. The prices aren't going down on these systems. Period. And we have to worry about septic systems, but we don't have to worry about my pig farm and a pig scat all over the ground. That doesn't seem to bother anybody. You got to write to the legislature. That's the secret to it.
Sorry about the triaxle. And look, my only point is, one cannot say with any degree of certainty what the cost of a system is going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You can say, it's not going down. I can say, I don't know whether it's going up or it's going down. But the laws of economics do apply in the world of septic systems. But as far as the pig scat and other stuff, all right, look at... there are regulations with regard to some forms of manure, broadly speaking, and actually there is a great deal of effort going into the issue of the application of manure in farming settings because of the extent to which they promote runoff of the nitrogen into the lake that helps to form the algal bloom. So there is a lot of work going on that score. I'm not disputing what you're saying about the pig scat, but it is an area of continuing concern as well.
Yes, I'm a homeowner and I'm also a landlord. I don't have one septic to have to worry about. I have many. I come here to this meeting tonight because the way the reason is this rule was established January 1 of this year. And I come up here tonight to find out what the new rules are, how it's really going to impact me. And I'm talking to any of you up here that will give me an answer, but I've not heard anything except that possibly this thing still is at a fight. I thought it was a done deal as of January 1, 2015. So I hear a lot of this promotion of let's fight, let's rah, 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 but isn't the game over? I want to hear how this is going to impact me. I understand the soils, scientists got to do their step and whatnot, but I want to know, are there going to be annual fees? Is Geauga County going to start coming around house to house, start checking our septics? I mean, there's things we've not even touched on tonight of really what's going to impact us as homeowners. And there's a lot of people that don't have room for the mound systems. The drip systems, you just said some of them are freezing up, and then are we going to be the experiment at $15,000 to $30,000 a hit? That, gotta put this in, but find out 5 years later, it's not working. Sorry. Who is going to be liable then for our expense? I need some answers. I need some real answers, because I got like 7 of these things to have to deal with, okay? So I want to hear some answers of what's going to impact us with this whole deal as of January 1, 2015. Not any other political stuff. And if this fight is still going on, as the representatives up there are saying, I went to many meetings with Grindell and you, Mr. Weissack, when you were fighting this, and Grindell and you guys got this thing pushed back a couple of times now with the moratoriums, okay? And that was great, because I thought, well, maybe somebody smarter than us homeowners are going to figure out what the real solution is this. And I come to this meeting tonight, and I don't hear any solutions at all. So anybody can answer.
Okay, perhaps. Perhaps once again, the fight is over if you allow it to be over. What is being said tonight, folks? There are so many variables and factors. I would have to sit with you for 2 weeks solid and explain every detail that there is. There is, with the vertical separation distance, because here, let me give you a good one. Because of the vertical separation distance of the perched water table, you may not be able to put in a system. Does that mean anything to you? No. Because now you're in my world. The fight is over. The rules are intact. January 1st, 2015. The only way you're going to change them is to get your legislators and go back in and change them. Okay? Do you have my drift? I am stuck. I have preached in the paper for years. I'm not a stranger to the newspaper, folks. There's been articles everywhere giving everyone great concern and should have been consideration. There should have been busloads of people going to Columbus with me, Christine Livers, when we provided testimony, one of the Board of Health members, to provide testimony to oppose these. It's a done deal. Unless you decide that it isn't a done deal. There are certain lots and criteria and limitations within these rules. You don't have an option. We're going to tell you what you're going to put in. This isn't a joke anymore. This is going to cost you money. Big money. And if you have a perched water table in a certain area, we're not going out and looking at sewage systems. You already heard. But this Board of Health is ordered by these rules that we have to develop some kind of a program for operation and maintenance. I've told you, the Board of Health in this county and I and my staff are grueling over what is our next step. We don't want to hurt you folks. That's never been my intent, and it's never been this Board of Health's intent. So the only way you're going to get out of this is you guys pursue it legislatively. The Board of Health and myself are going to soft shoe this as much as we can to try to help you to minimize the cost. But the rules are intact. If you have an approval, listen to me carefully. If you have the approval of our department for a sewage permit, it is good for 2 years. Within that 2-year time period, you have to obtain a permit. That permit is good for 1 year. this Board of Health and the board made the ruling that, gee, Bob, we don't want to hurt the residents, so they've extended it for another 6 months to try to help you through this. We didn't have to. That's what this Board of Health is made up of. So as far as fighting now, you better get your ducks in a row. It's what I was always said. But the question I say, is the juice worth the squeeze? Okay? I'm full of them, folks. But let me tell you, this is a deadly serious matter. When I'm standing up in the courtroom and I have somebody has a failing sewage system, by law, I have to abate the nuisance. I don't have a choice. There is no choice for Bob. But because in these rules there is a new clause that was put in at that time by Senator Grandel of a incremental update. That's how far Senator Grandel and I have talked on these. To try to help you through this. To try to say you don't have enough money to put in a whole new system. Well, what can you put in so I can tell the neighbor that filed the complaint, don't come and shoot Bob? That's where I am, folks. Did I answer your question? There's 126 pages here. For me to sit and tell you everything that's in here would take a very long time, so I apologize.
Do you have idea in Geauga County on how they're going to start implementing, finding out, is it only on house, used to be on transfer property, but is there going to be something in the wind in the future that you're going to start checking these septics and going house to house? Are you going to mandate a fee, or is somebody going to get fired? Is this a job promotion for people that are in the septic business? I realize, yeah, there's a lot of septics that are way beyond and not even functioning properly. But how are they going to do it?
Our for sale of property is going to remain the same. It isn't going to change. We are not going to go house to house looking at systems that we've not been asked to look at. If you call in this department, we will come out and do a complimentary walkthrough with you. That's how far we've gone. I've done it myself. I go out in the field. I've taken to where we've had elderly people. I've even dug up some of their lines to try to assist them. The sewage installers in this county, many of them know that. We are not going to go house to house. If we start that, I'm out of here. Okay? And I'll tell you what, I don't think my Board of Health would agree with that to begin with.
Yeah, I didn't know if it's going to be the county was going to be in charge of that anymore, because it sounds like it's coming from Columbus, a lot of
that is the maintenance portion of it. That is not the inspection. Everyone is eventually, you've seen where it says even installed system. Barry knows that. Even if you have a prior installed system, eventually over a period of time, you will be required to have an operation and maintenance contract. We are still in the infancy stage, and we're not of that mind thought that we're going to come out and hammer people. And I said it in front of everybody, and I'm accountable to God for lying if it isn't true. And I got 2 board members sitting here right now. They're hearing what I'm saying. Okay?
I have a question.
1 second. I wanted to touch your question in the back. You mentioned if you don't have room for one of these mound systems, what are you to do? Well, in these rules, there's something I don't like because it kind of tugs at the liberty aspect. So if you don't have room on your lot for that mound, and you have another parcel of land that's adjacent, you are required to combine those to accommodate that mound system. All right? Now I know I live out in the country myself, and we have multiple parcels. And, you know, in the back of my mind, I kind of think, well, if the kids, when they grow up, would maybe want to move and build a house, that's kind of what that's set aside for. But these rules say no. If the health department is knocking on my door with the public health nuisance charge, I'm required to combine those properties. So that doesn't sit well with me. Thank you.
I basically have a two-part question. Since our septic systems, and I've listened to Bob numerous times that we have very excellent sanitary systems in Geauga County. Senator Eklund, that bill that Matt was talking about, would you be willing to bring that up in the Senate for us? And then my second part question is for the installer. I heard that a lot of installers in Trumbull County got together and filed a lawsuit because people were getting so angry at them for these new failed septic systems. If you know anything about that, I would, if you could comment on that when Senator Eklund's done, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Before I introduced a bill like this, here's what I would need to answer in my own mind. Okay. If the bill applied to Geauga County and under the presently constituted Board of Health and the presently serving director, Bob Weisdack, I would introduce it tomorrow, okay? Because I have that much confidence in Bob's ability to run this aspect of his office's responsibilities. But there are 88 counties in the state of Ohio. And I'm not altogether sure, I don't know, but I would need to be made a bit surer that the authority that we would be granting to the other 87 counties would be granted to somebody as responsible and as competent as Mr. Weisdack and the group that we have here in Geauga County. You see what I'm saying? That no, it's not a cop-out at all, because if you allow some counties who have less competent health directors or have less functional health departments, and there are some around, aren't there?
Yes. I agree.
Then you are granting to them the ability to override state regulations designed to maintain the public health and leave it to the hands of people who are incompetent to do it.
The bureaucrats are incompetent.
Well, look, I'm not going to argue with you about the competence or incompetence of the bureaucrats. I'm telling you that when you pass a law that says any county may opt out, that means any county. That means not just the counties like Geauga that are functioning with a competent, capable group of people in this area, but it means those counties that are not so functioning. And that poses a potential problem on a statewide basis.
So what you're saying is bureaucratic control from no accounts is better than local control where you have an option to change. Right.
No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying, and I apologize for not making myself clear. This is not a question of the bureaucrats having to say so. It's a question of what is the competency of the local officials who you would propose to grant the authority to override the state regulation. What is their competency level? And if their competency level is such that they can be trusted with what I think we all agree is an important and serious issue, then fine. But if they cannot, if you just give it the blanket, anybody can opt out, you are empowering people who are not competent to protect the public health. Perhaps.
You still have local control, and then you replace those people.
You can have, you can have local control and replace those people. But last time I checked, Mr. Weisdack isn't elected, and neither are any other health directors.
They are appointed, but we elect the people who appoint them.
That's true. Right.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Well, let me have your attention. Wait till you get the mic. Once you get the mic, then you can go ahead.
Sorry. So my answer would be I would want to make sure that I had a better handle on the statewide implications of a bill like this one before I would introduce it. If it could be introduced and limited to Geauga County, as I say, I would do it tomorrow.
The question I have is hundreds of millions of dollars
going to regional sewer systems? How much goes to an individual sewer system?
None that I'm aware of.
Let me make it clear. We spent tax dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars spent on regional sewer systems. How much is spent on individual sewer systems? How much tax dollars?
An individual sewer system like a septic system?
Like a septic system, yeah. We
have
have 1 million septic systems in the state of Ohio,
Sure.
and we're spending a lot of tax money on regional systems, but nothing to help the homeowner. I think that's something you need to take a look at.
I look, in terms of... If...
This is all a precursor to sewers.
Oh.
Precursor to...
Sewers, regional.
Oh.
If you're spending $80 a month on a septic, they're going to be pushing sewers.
That's true.
It may take us 2 years, 5 years, but they will push sewers.
Yeah.
And all this money we're talking about now is gone.
I will fight to my last breath to avoid the sewering of Geauga County or any place in the 18th district that doesn't need it, okay? And, by the way, beg your pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. I said I would fight to the last breath to avoid the sewering of Geauga County, okay? It's been talked about over the course of a number of years. I've opposed it, and I continue to oppose it. Now, the short answer is, if we find ourselves under this regime of rules where homeowners are incurring incredibly unreasonable expenses associated with either the installation of systems or their upgrade or their repair, then I would fight very, very hard for there to be some measure of state support and help for homeowners who are placed in that position through no means other than the enactment of new rules like this. So your point is well taken, and I think it's a very valid one, and as and when it's necessary, I think that's a perfectly appropriate use of public funds. I do. Oh, there was the second part of this woman's question, and
you had asked if there's a lawsuit in Trumbull County. That's real easy. No, but it's a good idea.
I'd like to make it clear, you guys need to help and support your local health department. Start there, because that's what we're trying to do in Trumbull County. So if you can help push changes within your local health board, in the able leadership of your health commissioner, by all means, you can set a precedent for the rest of the 87 counties. And trust me, I would like to follow suit.
Let me clear one item up for you all. I have been having meetings with 10 other health commissioners. They are all afraid to stand up and say anything. And let me give you a prime example. I have a very good friend that's a health commissioner. He went with us as part of our group, a couple of the Board of Health members at that time, and myself, and he went down. Within 3 weeks of giving testimony, he came under attack by OEPA and the Ohio Department of Health. He lost his state subsidies because he gave testimony. You would not believe how many times they have tried to intimidate me so I didn't give testimony. The name of the game is, I'm sorry, I'm old Bob. But the other 10, and we have breakfast meetings every so often. And I'm not the leader of the gang, folks. But some of these other health commissioners feel the same way I do, but they're afraid to lift their head, because if the state comes in under these new sewage code and they don't like you, or of course, when they do a survey, it's just like the IRS. They have survey powers now, which is very important. They can take every penny that the health department has out of the sewage program and give it to another county. That's reality. That is in these rules, folks. So I could sit here, like I say, for days. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be the one just totally dominating conversation. But everybody sitting around this table pretty much has a real good idea of the massive changes that we're trying to deal with. This Board of Health, and I'm telling you right now, is struggling and has been struggling with these rules coming in. So it's not that everybody's just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. Believe me, this Board of Health is working hard for you.
Hi, good evening. I work for an architectural firm, and we do homes in Geauga County. We had the honor of doing this building here, and I just wanted to mention that this is a drip system that is on this building here, and it's been here for 10 years, and it's still working fine. And we've had other homes that we've designed with drip systems, and they are working fine. And I think the issue with the drip system has more to do with the installer than it has to do with the actual system. We work with an engineer that is out of Geauga County and who designs our system. I guess my question, I talked to him today, and he basically told me what he understood about the law, which was that there's a lot more administrative issues involved with this for Bob in the health department. However, I got the impression from seeing your slideshow that the only thing that was mentioned was about the drip system and the cost, and I understand that. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to put one in my property because otherwise I'll have to cut every tree out of my yard to do a trench field. However, it's my understanding that you're still able in Geauga County, if you have the proper soils, you're still able to do the same kind of septic system that's always been allowed in Geauga County. And I would just like some clarification on that.
The clarification I could give you, I have some installers in this room right now. I'm not running any system down. If you can get me a sewage system for $8,200 and it functions fine, amen, praise the Lord, I'll agree with it. But when I have installers tell me, in certain instances, not all of them, but you have car recalls and they say this doesn't work, that doesn't work. We are in the infancy stage of looking at these systems for residential. Probably the engineer that you're talking about is a very good friend of mine, and I'm thinking probably on the same level. There have been many instances where people, because of what is called this vertical separation distance, and if you listen to me carefully, because of that vertical separation distance required in this code, leaching trenches will be diminished by 80%. Did I stutter? Did I say something that people don't... More fuels would be allowed. The separation is less. It used to be 8 inches, and now it's 6 inches. Sir, I am not going to get into that, and let me tell you why. We can talk about that later. I am not here to confuse these people. I'm not getting into the technicality. I think leach fields are still allowed if they meet that vertical separation distance. But what I need to qualify the statement is, it's not going to be like it's been before. And I think everybody heard me. I'm going to repeat it for the third time. About 80% of the standard leaching trench systems will not be allowed in here because of the vertical separation distance. I don't mean to confuse anybody in this audience. That is technical, okay? You have to
Hello,
talk to
Bob? Bob, you could stand up again. Because Eklund said that he didn't want to go on record with knowing what the other counties are doing, but you said you dealt with at least 10 of them. Fine commissioners or something with your health departments of the joint 88 counties. You deal with those people a lot. And can't you just tell him that they're all good people? So that we can get this Geauga thing moving? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Okay.
I would hope that I associate with good
Yes,
people.
you said that. And
Well,
just tell
and I'm
Eklund.
putting my credibility out on the line. I would not tell you they're good people if they aren't. But
Okay.
these individuals, basically, even when Mr. Meadows came to my office, we spent an hour and a half together. I will talk as long as people are logical and understand. I'm not here to confuse you. I'm not here to run anything down. I'm telling you the process of what I see. I am not the kind to give you a surprise. And I was asked to come here to help inform you. I got 126 plus pages. I could never think of going through every variable and factor in this code without totally getting you lost.
Okay. So Eklund, Mr. Eklund, you can probably take his word, and then you can go ahead and progress with your H-bill, whatever that is.
I can give Senator Eklund their names that are the health commissioners, and they'd be glad to talk to him.
Thank you. And the other question I had was, I've already talked with an inspector, and the costs that we were used to for septics were 10 for an off-lot, 15 for like an on-lot, and my inspector said that they're going to these drip and the mound, which are going to be 21 to 23 and 25 to 30.
That's
Absolutely, and I agree with it, so I disagree with the fact that the prices are going down on that also. If you would like to say anything, Mr. Eklund, please.
Okay. Say, let me ask our friends from Trumbull County. Would you trust your health commissioner to administer by themselves without any constraints? A septic system protocol in Trumbull County? No. The answer is no. My point is, the 10 folks who Bob Wyzak is talking about, I have no question he interacts with them on a regular basis, and I'm sure he could vouch for their competence anytime. But there are. Would you place all 88 health commissioners in all 88 counties on a par with yourself and your 10 colleagues? Unequivocally. No.
As a professional, with all due courtesy, some of my colleagues, I would say, don't have perhaps maybe the detailed knowledge to be able to look at and maintain their system or their program. So for a blanket statement that I've been thrown into here, I can speak for at least 10 of them. I have spoken with many sanitarians that call me at my house and say, Bob, you are the only health commissioner in the state of Ohio that is astute on sewage systems. I don't want to be put on that pedestal. I only know what I know. And the name of the game is I could speak for the 10, but not for the other group of individuals.
Let me address the trouble issue.
And I appreciate your candor and your professionalism in the way in which you address that, Bob. But I think it's exactly the point that I'm making. Any more than Matt Lynch can vouch for the caliber or the quality of every lawyer in Geauga County, as wonderful as they may be. But that's really the issue. And on the Trumbull County issue.
Now remember what Jesus said about those lawyers.
Remember what Shakespeare said about them. Well, first, kill all the lawyers.
Folks, I can't remember who, it might have been Mr. Wyzak earlier. Bob, okay? Right now, if you don't like these rules, who do you call up and complain to? Right. If you don't like what's here, who do you call up? No one. All right. Now, if the power is given back to the local health departments, who do you call up? You can get his number. You can go to a board meeting, and you can address your boards of health for the most part. Trumbull County cut that out. But most boards still take public comment. And these board members are elected. Okay? The control goes back to the local level. We don't need a blanket bureaucrat in Columbus saying, we know what's best for you, Geauga County, or we know what's best for you, Trumbull County. We don't need that. So I think the Senate bill, House Bill 525, would be an excellent way to go. And while...
There's a little bit of confusion. I want to make clear about this. This bill does not give the authority to the local health commissioner to decide. It gives it to the county commissioners to decide. All right. So now we can, we can decide we're not going to have county commissioners. And you think I'm kidding? You're going to see very soon, probably in this legislature, a proposition to start to diminish the authority of townships, because they don't like the townships down in Columbus either.
We don't like them either.
They don't like local control to a great extent. So I'm just telling you, I will just leave you with this, because I know it's getting late. I think if you read everything in the Ohio Department of Health website, you'll come to the conclusion, if you like your septic system, you can keep your septic system. You can believe that.
We're going to hear from one of our county commissioners, Skip Faithful, in just a minute. First, this lady has a question.
Mr. Weisdack, could you just please explain or define very quickly what you're talking about when you refer to a vertical separation?
Okay, that is Chris Livers, one of our Board of Health members. I'm not going to try to confuse you, but you need to listen carefully, because I don't want to get you confused. The vertical separation distance is the distance that the Ohio Department of Health has set, which is a new requirement, that says if you hit a limiting layer such as clay, or the surface water comes down and that water cannot go any further, that's called the perched water table. Before, in the design that I looked at and we had in our county, we used a curtain drain that goes around about 270 degrees around the system that de-drains the surface water, moves it away from the sewage field area. This way the trench is able to take the liquid and allow it to permeate out through the sidewalls, which is correct treatment. The vertical separation distance that is now required, depending on what type of system you will be required to have, you may not be able to have a septic tank. You have to use, which a septic tank is about maybe $1,600, $1,800 for two. You may have to go to an aeration unit, which has a motor in it that shoots air down in the tank and starts the digestion process. Well, this aeration unit is about $5,000. Well, I would say that's a little bit of a difference. So it depends where that perched water table is, where that limiting layer is, as to what you are allowed to put on that lot. Does everyone understand? That is a tremendous change in this county. A tremendous change. Okay? Does anyone have any questions on that?
What would that cost?
What would what cost? Aeration unit, I said, is about, just the air unit is just about $5,000. I'm using estimates now. I'm not here as a manufacturer. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm telling you, the two septic tanks are about $800 a piece. Plus, of course, you're going to have them installed. So that's about $1,600, $1,800 if you're allowed to go that route. So you might not have an option. You may have a requirement. You got me? So these quote options, in many instances, aren't options at all.
I came here this evening to find out how.
The mic closer to you.
I came here this evening to find out how to deal with these new rules. I'm a real estate agent in the community. There's a lot of us that are here this evening. My question or concern is, number one, if you want us to continue to fight this, and everyone needs to understand that this has been being fought for the past 7 years. We're to this point even longer than that. We're at to this point right now. So can you specifically tell us how you want us to help fight this? Do you have an address? Do you have a name? That's what we need, number one. And number two, everybody else here needs to understand that if you sell your house here, you're not talking about just a $23,000 system. What you're talking about is that if a buyer has to go get a loan from a bank is going to require 1.5 times the cost of that system to be placed in escrow if the system cannot be installed because of current weather conditions. Like today, there's too much snow on the ground, what have you. So it's not just $20,000, it's going to be $30,000. It's not $25,000, it's going to be $40,000. And a lot of us don't have $30,000 or $40,000 sitting around. So if you want to sell your house, you need to start planning for that now. As real estate agents, it's going to impact our business dramatically, and everyone needs to understand it's not us making the rules. We're going to just help relay this information. So what we need from you today is, because I know you've been dealing with this for years, but we need to know who we can contact, because these drip systems, as you have stated, I know they don't work. They're $23,000. The off-lot system, you're looking for costs, are about $11,000. Your trench leach systems were anywhere from $15,000 to $18,000, depending on how many bedrooms you have, what type of soils you have, and then your mound systems. These systems have not been proven to be effective because of the soils that are out here. So again, we all need to write to whoever it is, because what's out there still isn't going to help. And if you're one of those people that have put $35,000 in escrow and then 2 years later your system fails again, then what are you going to do? So right now it's only based on a point of sale inspection, so you're only going to get tested if you're going to sell your house. But now you need to have the funds to put those new systems in. So again, please tell us what you specifically want us to do to fight this. We all understand that it's not good. We know more than ever. I have a lot of screaming people calling all the time, and I can't make that decision because I am not the county. But we need to be able to sell houses in Geauga County to keep the values up and what have you. So please tell us what exactly to do. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a tough question, and you're right. This fight has been going on for almost a decade now, and as Bob made the point earlier, this has gone through all of this process: the moratoriums, the rule writing process, the hearings, the objections, and when I remember when Bob filed his long, I don't know how many pages long his objections against these rules were, all of which fell on deaf ears in the bureaucracy. And so now the rules are like January 1st. There is really only one serious way to overcome this, and that's by legislation. And that's why I actually filed this last year before these rules went into effect, because we could see what the bureaucracy was bringing forward. Once the preliminary rules came out, it looked very, very bad. And so we started the legislative process. But in the end, you need to get your state representative, your state senator, to file the bill, number one, and then you folks need to support that representative and senator to get that bill passed. As best as I know, unless Bob has some other insights, that is the only option left to turn us back to rules that have been working well for 35 years. Let's not forget, 97% of the systems in Geauga County are working well, are passing their tests. It's not broken. We don't need to fix it in Geauga County.
That's particularly
Folks, your voices need to be heard. and this is the whole purpose of the Tea Party here, is that your voices will be here. And so what he said is exactly what needs to be done. And I want to remind you again that we have membership here to the Tea Party. You need to sign up, and if you don't get a membership, then you at least need to be registered with your email so we can contact you about what's going on.
Friends, I'm Linda O'Brien. I live up here at Red Raider. 24 years ago, I built my home. At that point, I put in an aeration system. In the 24 years that I've lived there, I have replaced the motor at least, I'm losing track, but at least 4 times. One was just last month. Every time I do that, it costs me almost $1,000. Now, I was required to put in an aeration system, but I want you to understand, they're not without ongoing costs. And I also want to point out that when I sold my home in Florida, it was on a mound, and Florida is saying that the mound system is unproven and that they're thinking of getting away from mound systems. So, personally, I don't want to go with a system that's unproven. I don't think you do either. It's a lot of money. It's like giving, Cadillac $50,000 for a vehicle that's a concept car that no one's have any evidence in, and you're going to drive down the highway and drive off the road. We need to come together with a joint, united voice. And it isn't just septic systems that we need to do that with. I'm here every month. I hope to see a lot of you here. We've got big issues. Agenda 21 is one of them. Common Core is another one. And we need your voice and your presence, because otherwise we're going to be in this room again years down the road saying, well, why'd they pass that law? If the law's passed, what can we do now? There's things we can do now if we will unite, and I hope to see you. So thank you for the time of listening to me.
She's right. We need to be engaged, and we'll wish you have. With that, I want to hand it over to County Commissioner Skip Claypool.
Thanks. I'm not used to that yet. For those of you who voted for me, thank you. For those of you who are about to vote for me the next time around, thank you. Just quickly to let you know, my door is always open to you, and I do spend time at the county offices. And so come on over and visit, and I want to hear from you. This is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. You know what that means? That means you need to be involved. What's been missing is your involvement. Okay? Of the people, by the people, for the people requires involvement. And the reason that this law passed is because so many people didn't understand that it was that important. Now it's happened, and what do? Well, the bill that Matt put into the system was a bill to alter the law. It's not to change the current law, because that's already in place. It is to adapt this law to make it better. I wish we could repeal it like Obamacare. Hopefully we'll address that in the near future. But this is an adaptation, and I don't know about anybody else, but I worry about Geauga County. I don't worry about Cuyahoga County. That's their problem. Let them fix that. I don't worry about Lake County. Let them fix that. I don't worry about Ashtabula County. That's my brother's problem. He's a county commissioner in Ashtabula County. So he can fix that. And if the public, you, come to my office and have an issue with me, or the county commissioner's office, I'm one of 3, by the way, then I'm going to address that issue in my county. I'm worried about Geauga County, not any other county around the state. There is a bigger plan. We talked about an upcoming meeting. If you think that this is an isolated law that doesn't fit into a larger plan, then I got some swampland down in Florida to sell you. In either the next meeting or the meeting after this one, we're going to be talking about the larger NOACA-led NEOS plan, and it's available for you to see. So this is their plan, not my plan. I can show you their presentation material and what their vision for 2040 is, and for Geauga County. So this is kind of an invitation to come back. Peg, when we're going to have Kim in to talk about that next meeting or the meeting after that? Okay, in 2 meetings, there's going to be another conversation to what you will see how this particular law fits into the 2040 plan and what that 2040 plan is for Geauga County. You think you should get excited now? You should see that plan for Geauga County. Because the face of Geauga County in 2040, if these folks have their way, this is a regional plan for Geauga County, you will hit the ceiling. It's being done quietly. It's being done under the scenes. Nobody really wants you to hear about it. You'll only hear about it here. So I'm going to ask you to show up.
He's talking about Agenda 21, folks. It's bad, all bad, and we're going to be talking about that. This is why we tell you you need to be engaged. We can't do it by ourselves. We do all. This is about all of us. In order to get this done, and this Agenda 21 basically is communism. We need to stop it. And, we got to send a very strong message to those folks in Columbus that we're here and we mean business. And we're not about to give up any more freedoms.
Absolutely. Tell that to my trustees.
Good evening. My name is Jim Fincham. I'm a soil scientist, and I'm the first guy that comes on your lot for a septic system evaluation. And I tell you what, Bob and I have had some differences here and there over the years, because I started about the same time he did. We've got a lot of very, very dense soils that, with these new rules, just like Bob said, you could be forced to put something in that I'll guarantee you it's not going to work. So then you're going to go back on me, or you're going to go back on your installer, and they are going to have to cough something up on a lot that's already been proven the system doesn't work. With the regulations we have now, at least we have some flexibility where we can not be forced, like to put a leaching trench in where we have 6 inches to first water table. All of that water is being injected into a 6-inch layer that when it rains, it's already full of water. The point is, all of these drip systems, yes, they may work in some situations. Leaching trenches work in some situations. But with these new rules, what I'm finding out tonight is I may quit. You may have to get somebody else, because my insurance just doubled. So if we don't get something done with this, I ask for mercy from all the homeowners, not just for myself, but for the installers, because we may not have a choice but to install systems that up to now we've known they wouldn't work. So, we need this flexibility with what we got. There's too much pressure to force things that just aren't going to work. For instance, for leaching trenches, you have to go on a linear loading rate, and all the trenches have to be 100 feet long. Those trenches have to follow a contour. Very seldom do I find, or do the installers find, a contour that has 150 or 100 feet, especially when the lot's only 100 feet wide, and you have a very highly variable grade. There's so many things about this that just doesn't work. So like I say, this scares me. My thought for Bob many years ago was we need 12 inches, not just 8. But there's not much area around that's got 12 inches. So there wouldn't be any leaching trenches. A lot of them do work, but we need this flexibility. This is not a livable set of regulations. It's pie in the sky. It's like they think we got a sandbox out here, and we can change the contours, and that the permeability will do whatever we want it to do, and that's just not right. That's not right. So.
I'd like to add just one little bit to Jim's comment. He talked about will it work, all right? And when this goes back to the $8,200 septic system, okay? Why, if these systems are $8,200, why did my bonding requirements double? I was at $20,000, now I'm at $40,000, okay? So I'm required to carry $40,000 of bond in case the system doesn't work on your property, and I'm going to get sued. Jim's going to get sued. Local health department has more money than what we do, so okay, see what I'm saying? So what happens? Well, we are, Bob. So what will happen when you come to me and say, "Hey, here are my soils that Jim gave me. I'm going to look at them and I'm going to say, I'm not getting involved in this. Sorry, homeowner, because I can't have a bond claim done because that shuts me down." So, yeah, these $8,200 systems that's not right.
In regards to what Mr. Meadows said, I preferably call him Barry. Okay. If a bond requirement is placed on a sewage installer, that's the end of their career. And the same as with Mr. Fincham. If there is a bond claim, then you are out of business. I had a situation where an installer installed the system. Someone else, I feel, based on the information I had, destroyed the sewage disposal system. And here the lawyer ended up suing the health department because I would not release the installer's bond. The installer didn't do anything wrong. But like Mr. Fincham said and what Mr. Meadows says, I have no option now. One of these guys are going to lose. And the minute that I sign my name on that piece of paper and hope and pray to the good Lord above that I'm right, and I'm not King Solomon, folks. Not that good. One of them or both of them, that will be the end of their career. This is serious. Very serious.
John, were you going to the mic, or were you just?
No, I'm easing a little discomfort in my back.
All right. All right. I want to remind you folks that we're going to take two more questions, but before we do that, our next meeting is February 19th at 6:30, right here, and everything that we're going to be looking at is very, very important to all of you. So mark your calendars for February 19th, 6:30, right here. You need to be engaged. And then we're also going to nominate for those that are Tea Party members are going to nominate the new officers for this year. There'll be an election in March. So mark your calendars, put it down. We have time for two more questions, and then, yes.
I have a question. You just said something that the soil will be tested, and if your system fails and you have to get a new system, you're going, because there aren't certain options depending on this permeation. And you tell me that I have to have X type of system, a drip system, mound, or whatever. And then I go to the installers, and the installer comes and sees the report, and he says, that system isn't going to work on this property, and I won't take the job. So I go from installer to installer and to installer, and they're all saying they won't take the job because they're afraid they'll have a bond against them. Now what do I do?
Ma'am, I'm pleading and I'm on your side. This has been created well past my ability to stop it. We have a situation, and like I say, there's so much information in here. If you have to get, now let me be very clear once again, if you have to put in an off-lot discharging system by this rule, rules here, the law, whoever installs your system, if they are a distributor, you cannot get a maintenance contract from anybody else. It has to come from that particular person that installed it. Now, he may like you this year, and it costs you $200. Next year, you may bother him and wake him up because your system has had a malfunction. Well, now your maintenance contract is now $600 a year instead of $200.
But
there is no one else that can change that.
But what I'm saying is, if it's determined that my system has failed and you tell me I have no other option but to have this type of system put in.
Right.
But then when I hire somebody to do it, they won't do the job because they're afraid of this bond situation. And you go from one installer to another and they all reject it. I can't do the work myself. What do I do?
I'm going to tell you to call Rebecca Fugit at the Ohio Department of Health.
And tell them to get me an installer?
No. You will have that discussion with her. Because I am seeing people being victimized as we're talking right now. I have an 81-year-old friend that was victimized by a distributor in this county. And there's not a thing I can do about it.
But I guess what my question is...
Your question is very clear to me, ma'am.
But
I am not going to tell you what you have to do in that particular instance. I will tell you to talk directly to the Ohio Department of Health. Every permit we issue, a copy is now sent to the Ohio Department of Health for them to review. Go ahead. If you want to ask more, go ahead.
The point I'm trying to make is, if I can't ever get a new system installed because an installer won't take the job, are you going to kick me out of my house?
Well, here's, I think, the answer, and Barry can correct me if I'm wrong. But as the cost of installing the system, as the risk goes up because of claims on bond, the smaller installers are going to be driven out of business.
That's right.
They won't be able to do business. So you're going to be left with much larger installers who you're going to, have limited choice. And as costs go up, you'll just have to accept those costs. All bad choices, but that is undoubtedly the result of this kind of pressure on the installers.
But my question is, if I can't get any installer, what happens?
Oh, you'll get an
Regardless of cost.
What I will do, I would go to the Board of Health. There's always an answer. Trust me. I would tell you to cap your septic tank, and you must pump it continuously until that public health nuisance is abated. That's extremely expensive, but I do not control private industry. Industry is what's driven this. I cannot control the price of it. I cannot control who wants to install it or who won't install it. I can't force people to install it.
One thing that I can suggest to you is that the rules also provide that in the case of a hardship, that an application for a variance to Mr. Weisdach's agency can be made. In other words, if he says, this is the system you have to use, you find it is physically impossible because the installers won't install it for whatever reason, then you have a right to seek a variance from the director, from the board, that says, look, because it is physically impossible, and I can demonstrate to you, physically impossible for me to get that system, please give me a variance, and they have the authority then to give you a variance that says, not exactly that system, will let you have one that is a reasonable facsimile thereof, okay? And if, yes, thank you. And if, by the way, there is a further procedure under the law, under the statute, not these rules. Under the statute, there is a further procedure that is established in every county. They have a review board, appeals board, appointed by the probate court in every county. And you are one of them.
No, I appoint someone.
You have an appointing authority. So
and one from ODH, 3 panels.
Three-member panel, 2 appointed by local officials. That was a good idea. And you have a right to appeal from decisions of the health department on these issues. So that's another alternative direction that you would be able to go in before you're thrown out of your house.
Basically, by the state code is...
Folks, what we need is relief. We need legislation to rectify this mess. How many say yay? Senator Eklund, we need legislation to rectify. We need really one last question, and then these fellows will be here.
For Senator Eklund. With all due respect, Senator, do you support sustainable growth or sustained growth?
Sustainable growth or sustained growth?
Yes.
Either or as an alternative?
Well, it's sustained growth.
Look, I don't believe in anything that is any uber government telling us how we're going to grow or at what pace we're going to grow or in what form we're going to grow or what kind of land we're going to have or how we're going to make use of our land. So, that's generally where I am.
Okay, but then with all due respect, and I'm not arguing, but it appears that you would choose to support the bureaucrats instead of your constituents who are of the people, for the people, by the people of our government. And I don't understand why you want to ignore your constituents.
I do not want to ignore my constituents. It's part of the reason that I'm here, to listen to you and to talk to you, okay, number one. Number two, I don't side with the bureaucrats over the people. I understand that the bureaucrats are charged with the responsibility by a law that was passed in 2007, okay? The legislature charged them with the responsibility in 2007 to do something. They have done something. We may not like everything that they've done. We may not like the way that they've done it. We may not like the effects it may have. But they have done something that the legislature did in 2007 and instructed them to do. So, my concern at this point is not siding with them one way or the other. My interest is in what is the impact on you and all of you and the realtors and the home builders and the installers and Mr. Weisdack and his blood pressure.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And that is why I am here. Okay?
Right.
So I take, with respect, ma'am,
right,
issue with the suggestion
right,
that I am siding with regulators or bureaucrats, as you may call them, over the interests of all of you. False. False.
Then would you please introduce the legislation of the House Bill 525? Because and I'm not arguing, I'm just pleading with you. We've got to do something to support our county and our citizens.
I am most grateful for your perspective on it. I think I have explained my concerns and my issues and what I would do with this bill before I would introduce it.
All right, very good. Let's have a hand for our panel, folks. Now, Representative Lynch, or former Representative Lynch, wanted me to sneak in a plug for his radio program that's on WHKW at 6:30 every Wednesday and Thursday. You want to listen to us?
How I See It?
How I See It. It's a very good program. You want to tune in, and it's a warm-up for What's Right, What's Left. It comes on at 10 till midnight. So don't miss either one. WHKW 1220. And, all right, these fellows are all here.
Thanks, how are you? What'd you do to yourself?
I took a chunk out of